excuse me, to review the allowances and funding to foster parents who carry out a very important role, given the increased funding to TUSLA in Budget 2018 of an additional 40 million. Minister, I'm sure you'll agree that foster carers are a vital resource in our care system, looking after almost 92% of the total number of children in care in Ireland. At the end of July 2017, there were 5,801 children in foster care in Ireland, and I just want to point to the extra resources needed to further support existing foster parents and the fact that we need to get new foster parents in and attract them in as well.
Deputy, I have no plans to change the rate of the foster care allowance at this time. However, my department has begun an extensive review of the Child Care Act 1991 and will examine foster care arrangements as part of this review. This will have regard to income support measures available to foster families generally. I acknowledge foster carers as the backbone of our childcare services. Foster care is the preferred option in Ireland for children who cannot live with their parents or guardians, and approximately 92% of children in care in Ireland are looked after by foster carers. More than a quarter of these children are placed with relative foster carers. The foster care allowance is currently €325 per week per child under 12 years of age and €352 per week per child aged 12 and over. This payment was protected during recent economic hardships and is tax-free. It is paid in respect of the child and is provided in order to allow foster carers to meet all of the child's daily living needs, including food, clothing, basic travel, education costs, and hobbies and sporting activities. The allowance is not considered as means for social welfare purposes. So foster carers also receive a number of targeted supports to ensure they continue to function as a recognized and valued part of the alternative care system. Key elements of that support include a link social worker, access to training and support group meetings, and the allocation of a social worker for each child in care. It's important that foster carers have access to specialist services to meet the child's identified needs, and respite care for children may be arranged if it is part of their care plan. A pre-assessment and ongoing training is compulsory for foster carers in order to equip them with the skills and knowledge to provide high-quality care. Recognizing the specific dynamics and the personal nature of relative care, TUSLA addresses the training needs of relatives who are foster carers separately, and in addition, TUSLA provides funding to the Irish Foster Care Association, which offers a range of supports to carers, including advocacy, mediation training, and a phone advocacy service.
Thank the Minister for her response. Minister, I really believe that we need to review how foster parents are rewarded and recompensed for that work that you've outlined, work that we have to acknowledge saves the state an awful lot of money. Can I ask when the allowances currently paid were last reviewed? It is my sense that they haven't been reviewed for an awful long time, talking to foster parents who have been doing it for many years who don't remember a change in the rates. And you know, you've outlined there the responsibilities, what that money is for, the clothes, the food, accommodation, classes and education, and that it doesn't act as a payment in any way for parents. But you know, I think we do need to recognise that the obligations that are placed on foster parents now that have increased, and rightly so. Under Children's First, they are being asked now to take on additional reporting obligations. There are extra responsibilities. They're taking on the role of a social worker. And there's also an anomaly I want to highlight, Minister, in relation to the allowance and the rates. You mentioned under 12s the rate is €325 a week, over 12 €352, but once you go over 18 that drops to 300. And now with transition year, there's an awful lot of students that aren't finished second level education, and I would argue it's probably much more expensive to be minding an 18-plus-year-old than a 14-year-old, yet you're only getting 300 instead of 352.
In relation to your specific question about when was the last time the rates were reviewed, I don't know, but I'll find out for you. Okay, it's sorry. I understand it's not recently. It's probably not recently, but I certainly will find that out. I think all of the points, I think all of the points that you make are really critical. And if it is the case, as you understand, that it is in recent that those rates have been reviewed, I've indicated that that's even more important, why they are being reviewed in the context of the extensive review of the Child Care Act that my department is engaged in. It's really opportune, therefore, that you raise all the various points and issues that you have in the context of your response to me that, again, are all circling around the fact of the extraordinary contribution that really, foster carers make in terms of the protection and care of our children and to Irish society. So I accept those points that you are making, I'm certain that they will be included, as well as wider consultation in relation to the review of the Child Care Act, and to take a look at specifically, I suppose, if you know, a rationale for the basis of increase, and by taking a look at perhaps the increased costs, etc., and supports that are required by foster carers.
Thank you, Minister.
You know, issues are also compounded by the difficulties being experienced by foster parents in relation to qualifying for the contributory pensions because of the fact it's not seen as work. Now, I understand this is an area outside your remit that more crosses over into social protection, but as the Minister with responsibility ultimately for foster parents, I think it's something that I'd like to maybe tease out with you more in the future, that we could maybe champion a little bit, because while foster parents qualify for homemakers credits until their foster children are 12, after that they are not deemed to be working. They're being told that they have to go out and get a part-time job. Yet they are expected to be in the care of what are, in a large effect, when they're teenagers, very vulnerable children who are in the care of the state. We need to ensure that the role of foster parents is recognised as a job which qualifies for credits and assists foster parents to qualify for pensions, because back to the point, the foster parents in this country are minding 92% of the children in our care. In a lot of cases, these are very vulnerable children that need a lot of support. And there's the practical level of the supports, like for the over-18s, the loss of mileage that there was previously, a 33 cent a mile that isn't paid anymore. But there also is the key recognition here that we as a state say we recognise the very, very important role that foster parents do. We want to support those who are doing it, and we want to make sure we make it attractive enough that more people will be foster parents into the future.
And Deputy, thank you. I think all of your points are very well made and important to make now. As I said, they're timely, and as you say, and I think you were particularly pointing to a lot of the types of supports, but specifically in relation to income. That to be provided to those who take on this very special and important role for the state. And so, again, what I say is I acknowledge that those points and the importance of them and the importance of including them in the context of the work of my department. The second thing I guess I'm offering in the answer is that there are other forms of support in addition to income support for foster parents or foster carers that are part of the system and that I think are also significant in addition to the allowance. And of course these include regular home visits and telephone contact from assigned fostering link worker, that each child in care has a social worker who visits the child, maintains a link with the child's birth family, that foster carers can apply for child benefit for each child in their care, that there is a comprehensive training program, pre and post approval, and that each child in foster care will have their own medical card. So these are additional types of supports that are there by way of an effort of the state to acknowledge the extraordinary role that foster carers make.
45 in them that be